Hey everyone. Sweet. Sorry, I'm a little late to the game. Took a minute to get set up. Looks like 6 people. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to do something, to address the current situation. And I took some notes, but I will say that I feel like the appropriate response as a white person is not always intuitive. So it's important to listen and reflect before we react to these situations. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple days. Hey, Kirsten. Is it Kirsten? I hope I said that right. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that I've known about this issue for a while, but it hasn't really been my area. I don't have a bunch of facts up my sleeve about police brutality. But this moment has, pushed it all to the forefront. And so I'm still learning. I don't have all the answers. I don't know what is going to come out of this. I'm seeing a lot of anarchists saying we should abolish the police, and then I'm seeing people giving examples of reform. I saw a video of cops de-escalating a violent situation in the UK they basically surrounded this guy with a machete, and they had a bunch of other police come in with giant shields. And it was interesting because they were able to detain him without hurting him physically. And in the United States, that would have been a clear, justifiable reason to just shoot him down. Thank you, Adam. Oh yeah, you saw that on Secular Talk as well. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of The Hill and Secular Talk and The Humanist Report, and also just been scrolling on Facebook and Instagram and getting a lot of different opinions. And yesterday, in honor of the Blackout Tuesday, I listened to a lot of Black voices, because I know a lot of those news sources I just named are all white people. But yeah, I was talking to my mom, and she was saying that she doesn't feel that she raised racist children, but she also doesn't feel like she did enough to educate us about racism, and because she didn't really know. And growing up in Georgia, especially, white America, where we say the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school, it's definitely, oh, Lewis, you're right, Sagar isn't white. That's a good point. I'm just looking at my notes real quick. Yeah, so basically, we do have a very, whitewashed version of history in our school system. And, I was not taught about systemic racism. And, I only recently read Martin Luther King's autobiography and his letter from a Birmingham jail. And the whole time I was reading that, I was just how is this not mandatory reading in school? Of all of the mandatory books, Shakespeare and whatever it is, that's one of the most impactful books. And it goes into the concept of negative peace and the white moderate, and it's just so important. And that's something that I didn't get from my education. And for all of y'all that aren't living in the United States, how creepy is it that we have a Pledge of Allegiance? Like, I remember in high school, I kind of stopped standing for the pledge because I thought it was creepy and, like, culty. Like, I remember talking to my Canadian cousins about, like, I recited the pledge to them, and they were just like, what the fuck? Have I read Malcolm X? So, yes, no, I have not, but that is on my list because I feel like Martin Luther King is just, like, the person that everyone, you know, he's like the representative of Black people, but obviously there are different opinions, and there's the argument to be made that, like, while his philosophy of nonviolence was, like, super powerful, and I would advocate for that, you know, I believe in his message, but, like, without Malcolm X, like, playing bad cop, you know, good cop, bad cop, like, we wouldn't have, like, it wouldn't have gotten as much attention. It wouldn't have allowed, like, Martin Luther King to negotiate. So yeah, I need to read Malcolm X because I need to educate myself, okay? And then another thing on my reading list has been the new Jim Crow, which I think is mostly just about, like, mass incarceration and, like, prison labor, because 13th Amendment was, like, to eradicate slavery, but, like, did it really? And that's, like, I hope that I'm not just talking out of my ass, but that's on my list. And then Between the World and Me has been on my list forever, and I'm gonna push those books to, like, the forefront of my reading list. Hey, Flem. Oh, Flem, she made a great video about Anonymous for the Voiceless response on Instagram. It was good. You should check it out. Basically, they lack tact, and it's just not the time. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, go watch her video. But yeah, like, other than that, I wanted to do this stream just to, like, talk about what we can do, because I've been reading about, like, performative allyship and, like, ally theater, and how posting a black square on your Instagram with hashtag Blackout Tuesday and, like, maybe signing a petition or two, like, isn't really activism. Like, that's not enough. And I do want to say that as, like, a vegan activist, like, I know that I don't have enough time and energy to, like, dedicate to all of these important causes. Like, we just don't have enough energy to, like, pour into every single thing that we care about. But, like, it is important to at least educate ourselves and, like, stand in solidarity, because it really brings different movements together. And, like, Paul Bashir, the founder of AB, was talking about, like, why he doesn't support, like, intersectionality, but I think he was missing the point of, like, you can still do focused activism, and, like, you can still keep your organization focused on animal rights, but, like, in a moment like this, you can express solidarity, and it's not going to hurt your movement or your organization. Like, anyone that unfollows you or, like, stops donating to your organization because you, like, made a post against denouncing racism, like, it's just, fuck those people. I think you were starting out great educating yourself. Like, that's all I can really, that's the way to start, because, like, I want this to be, like, a brainstorming session, and, like, drop any charities that you've been donating to and I'll look into them. But yeah, like, I'm still doing my research. Like, I don't know, like, the best groups to give to. Paul always misses the point, and he's a bigot. I don't expect him to change anytime soon. Yeah, I watched their, like, live stream response, and I don't know enough about bigoted things he's said in the past. So, like, I can't really speak on that. But yeah, as far as like moving forward with AV, like I don't want to just like stop participating in AV because like the founders are bigoted. Because like our organization, like chapter organizers are pro-intersectional. So like I think it would be a disservice to the animals to like just like stop doing activism. But if there's an alternative, like if we can build like a alternative way of advocating that's similar and effective, then obviously I would do that instead of like advertise AV. Hey, Celestial Cow. With the formation of it, the founders don't have too much of an effect on what you do in your local area. Yeah. That's why I'm not like, I haven't like made a definitive decision to like stop participating, but I can understand like why people have. Frank Tufano. Oh boy. 84% of vegans go back to eating meat. That is not relevant to this topic, Frank. We are talking about Black Lives Matter. I mean, I guess we were talking about AV, but hey, Emma. It's okay. I was late anyway, so I was like 10 minutes late to the stream, so you're not that late. Oh, obviously, aside from like educating ourselves, and that's another side note, like I've seen a lot of Black educators saying that the resources are there online. Like you don't need to like bombard your Black friends and like have them educate you because you can do it yourself. Obviously sign petitions, donate. Another thing is like if you don't want this to just be performative, like we don't want to have this all blow over in the media and then like slip back into complacency. So I would highly suggest if you're gonna donate, like, and if you have the means to make it a monthly donation, like even if it's like $10 a month is better if you spread it out than like a one-time donation. And attend protests. I felt like so guilty because there's so many protests going on in Denver. Like I'm like 45 minutes away and like I haven't gone. So I felt like a bad activist. That's why like I've been taking this time to educate myself and like donate money because I can. And like I understand like I was kind of hesitant to go because of like the pandemic and also like there were reports of tear gas and stuff, but like I don't want to discourage people from going because like from what I've heard they haven't been like too violent, like they've been mostly peaceful protests. So yeah, I don't want to discourage anyone from going. I don't think activism has to be protesting. That's true. Like I want to convey that like I felt guilty because like all my friends are like going to these protests and I just like was being, I don't know, I was like hesitant to go. But yeah, there are other ways to be active that if you don't feel comfortable going, like it's totally possible to continue AV style educational outreach without actually associating with AV. That's a great point. Like that's what I have been talking to my fellow AV activists about, because I don't want to just like stop and like not like create a new alternative. Better not speak on Paul. Basically, he admits to being a transphobe and doesn't see how it affects AV in any way. Yeah. People just really don't understand like what intersectionality is. Like I agree that some of the criticism he gets is probably like unfair, you know? I don't know. I like not speaking just to him, but like Yeah, it's obvious that inclusivity doesn't mean like we should be marching alongside Trump supporters. Like that's not what inclusivity is. Wait, someone said that someone has been putting piles of bricks on the side of the road so people use them for throwing. Not sure if it's fake news. Yeah, that's another thing is like I have been seeing like so like just bombarded with so much information and like I haven't been like verifying everything. So like I don't want to say anything inaccurate. Like y'all should check me because I don't know. Like I've heard like, oh, a lot of the violence is from these outside agitators. And then I've heard other people saying like it's like the looters and the rioters are like stop discrediting them. Like they're doing this because they're so angry. Like not everyone who's throwing bricks is an outside agitator or like a cop instigating it or, you know, like, so it's a mix. Like there's some agitators and then there's some like legitimate people throwing things because they've been dealing with racism and oppression for so long. The bricks are definitely real. The myth of outside agitators is not. Yeah, like I've seen stuff like that saying that it's largely a myth. Like certainly there's a few, but my brother who lives in LA told me the looters seem to be totally separate from the protesters. Apparently there's a lot of opportunistic looting. Yeah, like that's probably true, but I also think that like the opportunistic looters are probably like experiencing like economic, you know, struggle right now. And so they're taking this opportunity to like, you know, get the things they need that they can't afford. So that's like one angle, I guess. That's another thing I wanted to mention is like, let's see, hold on. It's not, okay, hold on. Oh, okay, I wanted to read a quote from Martin Luther King because everyone is quoting him like to kind of denounce the rioters, but he famously said, "But it is not enough for me to stand before you tonight and condemn riots. It would be morally irresponsible for me to do that without at the same time condemning the contingent, intolerable conditions that exist in our society. These conditions are the things that cause individuals to feel that they have no other alternative than to engage in violent rebellions to get attention. And I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard." So you can advocate for nonviolence, but we should try to understand like the root cause of like why people are committing acts of violence and keep things in perspective. Because like, like overt violence, like throwing bricks and like beating people and stuff is like sensationalized in the media, but what's hidden is the like structural violence, like the inequality of lack of healthcare, lack of access to clean water, like food insecurity, like that is violence. It's just not thought of as violence. So like burning down a precinct is like blasted all over the media as like this horrible act of violence. And I'm not gonna like say, like, I'm not gonna say I'm for it, but I'm not gonna like condemn it at the same time. But yeah, and then the media just completely ignores like the structural violence that these people are dealing with every single day. Martin Luther King would have been 100% in support of rioting and looting. People don't riot and loot without reason. Yeah, like I think that he wasn't advocating for people to do that. Like he was very firm in his like stance to be nonviolent because it's very effective when the media sees like violence erupt from the state and like the cops like onto the peaceful protesters, like that garners a lot of sympathy to the average American. So that's an incredibly effective way to like get that sympathy. But he clearly expressed that what we really need to tackle is the like systemic, like the structural violence that caused those acts of rebellion. Also, anarchists who are participating in looting and rioting whenever they get the chance are using a legitimate form of protest against an unjust state. Yeah, I do think destruction of property like is a legitimate form of protest. Not that I'm like advocating like go out and do this, but I don't know. I've heard some people say the system is working well because we are just numbers and this is Babylon. Yikes. Yeah, like, that's the other thing is, like, people who think this, or, like, this is just destruction and, like, unrest. They think that we need to return to order, regain order, as if, like, anything was in order before all of this. Like, this is happening for a reason, and that's the idea of, like, negative peace, no justice, no peace. Like, I'm struggling with words right now. Most of the violence at the protesters comes from police. They're targeting peaceful protesters. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. And then people are sharing, like, videos of cops, like, hugging protesters and, like, marching with them. And, like, I don't know what the answer is. Like, that can be performative. I've seen, like, articles saying that some of those cops were, like, tear gassing peaceful protesters, like, 1 hour later. But yeah, I'm not totally sold on anarchy, but I'm skeptical. But I feel like we should apply the same, like, our skepticism should be proportional. Like, we should always be skeptical of the status quo. And a lot of people are skeptical of, like, fringe movements like anarchy more so than they are of the status quo. And I'm just, like, keeping my eyes open. Like, I don't know the answers. Like, I don't know if we can reform our current police system. Doesn't seem like it, but maybe. Like, I don't know. I can't believe Frank Zufano is here. I'm just gonna continue ignoring you. Sorry, bud. Let's see. This is just completely unorganized, but I just made some bullet points. So going back to what I was saying about structural violence of, like, lack of healthcare, stuff like that. We need, like, solutions have to extend beyond police reform. So we have to address, like, our education system and end the drug war and lift people out of poverty, because that's, like, the reason we're seeing these riots in the first place. Like, George Floyd was just the spark, and he was, like, the last straw. MLK saw past the bullshit and went for the heart of the issue, but man, you Americans don't know how to riot properly. You need to be specific with what you want. That's so true. Yeah, it's kind of, like, unorganized right now, and, like, we have to have, like, clear, specific demands in order to actually, like, get change, because if we're just, like, blowing off steam, I don't know if that's gonna be all that effective. I was skeptical of anarchism too, but the more I've learned, the more I can see that you cannot reform systems that are structurally set up to benefit from inequality. yeah, that's why I'm like open to the, I guess, ideology. I just like haven't read enough about it to like speak on it and like call myself an anarchist. Like I'll look into it, but I can't say that I'm sold. Check out Mexi on YouTube. She has an amazing vids on socialism and veganism. Yes, I actually linked one of her videos in the description of this live stream. She just posted an amazing video about COVID-19 and white supremacy and how those things are connected. It's just so well done. Like if you're like scratching your head, like those things aren't connected, go watch her video. Mexi is an anarchist. Yeah, she's definitely radical for sure. The Vegan Vanguard, that was a great podcast. I haven't listened to like all of their episodes, but the few that I've listened to have been good. I think people really just misunderstand anarchy. Yeah, that's why I don't want to like say anything like negative about it, because like I don't know anything about, like I don't know enough about it. Like obviously I'm misunderstanding anarchy because like I don't like I couldn't really explain like how it works and like what anarchists like are advocating for. So surely Catherine knows Mexi. I wish I like knew her personally because she's super cool. Today a police officer said on TV, protesters blocking a road didn't let a fire truck to a burning building in which people died, including a child. What do you think about violent protests at the moment? Yeah, I mean, if you're like harming like people, like killing people, and like I don't think that property destruction, which is violence, is the same as like actually killing people. And it does make me sad that like small businesses are being destroyed, like when those like the owners of those businesses are like in support of the cause. So it's like I don't have a problem with people looting Target though. That was kind of rad. Let's see. I've always heard anarchy explained like this. It doesn't mean no rules. A better interpretation is no rulers. Yeah, that's kind of like the vibe that I get, is that it's not like no structure whatsoever and like utter chaos. Like there's still like infrastructure. It's just not like hierarchical unless the hierarchy is justified, like in terms of like expertise or skill. That is a great short explanation. Do you think property destruction is a better form of protest than looting? It seems less selfish to destroy than to steal things. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't think, the thing about looting is that like the people who are stealing shit are like economically disadvantaged, and like the real looters that we should be talking about are the billionaires. Those are the looters. Those are the people looting all the time. It's kind of like with structural violence versus overt violence. Like we think of looting as like just these thugs and criminals going and breaking into Target and stealing TVs, but like we don't, like in the media, like the wealthy who exploit, and like CEOs of all these businesses, like who don't pay their employees a living wage. Like honestly, like the people stealing that shit like are taking back what they, you know, they earned. Let's see. I think looting is a form of property destruction in a sense. I honestly think that looting is more effective because you are stealing from the rich. Yeah, I definitely sympathize with Robin Hood. If billionaires steal, we should put them in prison. If they use voluntary exchange, they earned every penny. I don't know. That's not really how that works. Like, it's not like voluntary exchange. Like, yes, like if you have to work in order to pay your bills and eat food, like you're essentially like forced to work in this capitalist society to survive. And like when the profit motive is there, like to, you know, profit over people, they're trying to squeeze out every penny they can get. It's not fair. It's not a fair voluntary exchange. Let's see. The rich people can rebuild their damaged property, but if people loot and take the products they need, that damages the company's profits and market demand. Yeah, I also wanted to say, like, let's see. People who are denying systemic racism, like, first of all, at this point, how do you even deny that? But they just like are, you know, class reductionist or whatever and say that it has way more to do with class than race, which I think it has a lot to do with class, but there's a reason why so many Black Americans are like they have less wealth. There's a reason for that. And the reason is racism. Like our country was built on racism. Like that's the other thing about growing up in the South, especially like our education system kind of teaches us that we have evolved past, you know, racism. Like that's a thing of the past, and America is so great and wonderful. And it's like, this shit's still going on. Like we do not live in a post-racial society. Oh, one thing I skipped over, like talking about like solutions, like what we can do right now, aside from like protesting, donating, you know, amplifying Black voices was the thing that I missed. Like, I love this trend of like tagging a bunch of Black content creators and Instagram accounts, because like I realized through all of this that like I was only following like a handful of like Black vegans and like so many white vegans. And there's plenty of them out there. Like if we follow these accounts, then we're going to be like kept up to date with like this movement and what's going on in the future so that we don't slip back into complacency. So in the comments, drop your favorite Black vegan content creators. I know I listed Angie Speaks. I don't think she's vegan, but she's super cool. On Instagram, in my community post, I tagged, I don't want to mispronounce her name, but it's like IYE.loveslife. Super cool, like radical vegan Black activist. Dom Thompson, he's cool. You should follow him. Angie Speaks is vegan. Oh my gosh, yes. That makes her like 10,000 times cooler. Badass vegan. I'll have to check all these people out. I don't follow Yellow Cat Query. I don't know how to say that. Hold on, I missed some comments. What? I feel like classism has always been based on racism. Like the two are definitely inextricably linked. The poorest people in every society have also been the most racially profiled. Yeah, they're definitely linked. The caste system in India and how it is often in congruence with colorism. Yeah. See, the more I learn, it's like that quote. It's like the more you learn, the more you realize, like, I don't know what the quote is, but the more you realize how little you know. Like, I know nothing about history. Like, the more I learn about history, the more I realize, like, that was not something I really paid attention to in school. Like, I didn't know who Rodney King was before this shit storm happened. Like, I'd maybe heard of his name. Like, I'd heard of the LA riots. Like, I'd heard that term as like a buzzword, but like, I didn't know what sparked them. Like, I didn't know, like, I don't know shit. Yeah, I want to learn more about like imperialism. I do think it's like what's the word? Oversimplification to say that like the white man is like the cause of all the problems in the world. Like, obviously in other societies, like, you know, like, it's not just the white man, but there's like issues of racism all over the world. And like, if we're talking numerically, it could be very, very true that the white man has caused the most problems. So I didn't mean to imply. Again, I don't know what I'm talking about. How long have you been? Okay, yeah. Well, I'll do future live streams where you can ask me questions about my digestion and veganism, because that's not what this is about. Emma. Can you make a list of, sorry if I'm missing some of these, it's kind of hard to keep up. Can you make a list of the names after the live and post them? Yes. I feel the same way. I was actually really into history in school and was lucky to have history teachers who taught things outside of standard curriculum. And even I don't know shit. Yeah, one of my history teacher, I'm like friends with her on Facebook, and she's super cool. Like, I wish that I had paid more attention in her class. I was probably too busy like passing notes with my friends or some shit. The history we learned in the American school system is only a sliver of history that is out there for us to learn. That is for damn sure. Oh, you know who I love? Cornel West is a boss. Like, that clip of him on CNN was just 10 out of 10. And also Nina Turner. If you don't, I mean, who doesn't know who Nina Turner is? If you don't know who Nina Turner is, look her up. And and then another thing, like what we can do, obviously vote. But Michaela Wilkes, if you're in the US and you're voting, obviously you should vote. Don't not vote. But Michaela Wilkes is running against, I don't even know his name, but I'll link her information below. But she is kind of running on a similar platform to AOC, so we need to support her and support like progressive candidates that are running against like our current white liberals, because we need Nancy Pelosi out. Milton Mills, yeah, he's cool. Nancy's got to go, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty irritating seeing all these, like, Republicans, let's just call them Republicans, because that's what they are, but, like, voicing support, lip service. They're paying lip service to this movement and, like, making it entirely about, like, not that it's not about race and racial profiling, but they're, like, oversimplifying it and, like, ignoring, like, the other issues that lead to, you know, like inequality and stuff like that. As if we can just like do police reform and then solve all the problems. Vote if you are confident that you know the correct choice. I mean, yeah. One of the things I think about a lot is that in any other country, American Democrats would be a right-wing party. Yes. Joe Biden suggested that police shoot people in the legs because it's less lethal. Yeah, that just goes to show, like, America, right? That's just America. Like, if you watch some of these videos of, like, police de-escalation tactics in other countries, like, you don't need to shoot anyone in the foot. Like, kind of an aside, but have you watched Mexie's vid titled Why I'm Not Vegan TM? Yes, that's actually how I discovered her channel. It's a good video. Republicans don't believe that economic inequality is a measurement of anything. I agree. Okay. Yet Americans think we're a leftist country, LOL. Yeah. Yeah. Like, the conservatives argue that our media is just biased, liberal bias. It's like, yeah, it has a liberal bias, has a neoliberal bias. Definitely doesn't have a leftist bias. What are some of the books, resources you are using to educate yourself on BLM movement and racism in America? So I listed two that are on the top of my list. So The New Jim Crow and Between the World and Me. I haven't read them yet, but I highly, highly recommend Martin Luther King's autobiography. And then, of course, in contrast, like reading Malcolm X's biography. That's also on my list. But I think I've run through all of my major bullet points. Let's see. Oh, and then the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. Like, all of these conservatives who are just, like, horrified by these riots and, like, condemning this violence. Like, y'all were condemning peaceful protests, like, a year ago. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you want? What do you want? Like, I saw this meme and it was I think it was a tweet, but It says, can't riot, can't protest, can't kneel. Sounds like you want the Black community to just shut the fuck up and accept white supremacy as a permanent feature of our society. So it's kind of similar to like the most peaceful, benign, like articulate vegans are still told to shut the fuck up. Like, we can't do it right. Like, obviously we should critique like ineffective activism like within our own movement, but like from the outside, like we're gonna get shit on no matter what because they just don't like our message. It's not how we protest, it's what we protest. That's so true. I also want to read about Gandhi because I've heard that he like was racist against Black people. Oh, and then another good like sign I saw I didn't attend a protest, but I saw it online. We're not trying to start a race war, we're trying to end one. Bam! Like, exactly. And then Democrats versus Republicans, it was the picture of Derek Chauvin, the guy that murdered George Floyd, right next to the cop that was standing right there, not doing anything. And it was like centrists versus right-wingers. And Trump is just like inciting all of this. It's pretty crazy. Like at this point, I don't understand like how people don't see Trump's racism. It's so obvious. Like it's so obvious. It can't be more overt. I mean, I guess it could be more overt, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. That's all we need. The other 3 cops who were complicit are now being charged, and Chauvin's charges have been upgraded to second-degree murder. That's good. I hope they all get sentenced. It's not that they don't see his racism, it's that they agree with it. Yeah, that's true. But they don't think they're racist. Like, it's very bizarre. It's very strange that people don't see such glaring racism. Like, I will say though that like, you know, the Black community is not a monolith. Like, people have different opinions, and one single person is not the arbiter of like what is and isn't racist. So there are certain things that like are more gray area, like I would call like racially insensitive, but like Trump's racism is like so obvious. They're not racist, they just don't see color. Yeah, that's kind of like what I grew up believing. Like, that's like what was taught in school, and like, you know, my parents, that was kind of their mentality of like what it means to be anti-racist is to like not see color. But fortunately my parents are open-minded, so they are learning alongside me and my siblings. The bar for racism is sky high. Their bar, yeah. It's like you have to be like a literal member of the KKK to be considered racist. George Floyd was intentionally killed in a way as to not have the cause of death obvious in the autopsy. Wow. Yeah, that's just like the people that are saying that, oh, he had all these underlying conditions. Like, if you put me in a chokehold like that, I would die, and I don't have heart disease or like any intoxicants in my system. Like, that's just like bullshit. Fortunately, though, some of my conservative friends, like on Facebook, I don't have a lot of like IRL conservative friends, but like they are acknowledging that this was murder. Like, I haven't seen like a whole bunch of denial. Like, I've seen some like dumb shit about like condemning the looters more so than the murder, but I feel like most people recognize it as murder, which is at least, I don't know. I don't want to say progress, but oh, I realized that the reason I was like so nervous about live streaming is because like when I make my videos, I can really think about the things I'm saying and like make sure like I'm not saying anything in a way that's insensitive. So if I say anything insensitive, I'm sorry, please call me out. People think it's enough as long as they aren't overtly racist. They don't want to acknowledge their privilege, let alone sacrifice anything. Yeah. I don't really know what you're talking about, Thaddeus. When did I say anything that is not redistributing wealth is racist? Well, I mean, if we don't redistribute wealth, like, we're like fucking over a bunch of people, most of whom are minorities. Like, it was racist that we built this country off of slavery and like killing Native Americans. And that's like why white people in this country like have so much wealth. If you don't care enough about Black people, or if you don't care about Black people enough to want change, that's racist in my opinion. I agree. Complacency is racism, yeah. I feel the same way about Malcolm X. He was incredibly sexist, but that doesn't mean his ideas were not good. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I'm not, like, saying Gandhi is terrible, but he wasn't, like, this angel. I don't know. Even Martin Luther King, like, he had some problematic opinions. Like, he was super Christian and, like, you know, cheated on his wife, but that's, like, used against him by conservatives, and, like, it shouldn't be. There's a reason why MLK said the greatest threat to Black America is the white moderate. Yeah, that's why everyone needs to read Letter from a Birmingham Jail, because that shit's fire. Not caring if Black people have healthcare is racist. Yes, that's the thing, is like, think about, you might not, it's not that you are an overt racist if you're conservative. Like, I recognize that people like Ellen Fisher, like, I don't think she believes that she, you know, she supports people of all races. Like, she doesn't think she's racist, but her ideology, like, promotes structural inequality and systemic racism. So in a way, she is racist, but I don't really like to just like call people racist, because I don't see, it's more of like I don't think it's effective at like getting people to see how their beliefs are supporting racism, to like label them as a racist. I mean, people like Ellen Fisher, but it is racist. Racism isn't a conscious thing, it's subconscious. Yeah, that's very true. But I do think like as human beings, we're like very defensive, and like if we're like called a racist in a way that's like in like, I don't know, I just try to avoid like calling people racist and criticizing like their actual beliefs, and trying to separate that from like who they are as a person. But I do understand that like they are racist. Just like I saw this tweet that was saying that you don't have to be like devoid of racism to be anti-racist. You just have to like have a desire to be anti-racist, and like be open to like hearing, like having people call out your racism, and then like improving and like perpetually like reflecting. Well, I have been doing this for an hour, and it's been good. I'll probably wrap it up because I ran through all of my bullet points, and I'm gonna link a bunch of stuff in the description when this finally uploads. It takes a while. It takes like maybe a day, but it'll be on my channel. But thank you guys for all your input. Thank you, Emma. I'm so glad you joined. All right. Well, educate yourselves, donate, and yeah, that's all I have to say. But peace out.